This player hit his very first home run in less than 6 weeks. And this player saw a significant increase in power in just 14 days. In this video, I'm gonna share with you a new, simple, and easy hitting formula that you could copy to hit your first or next home run. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm former MLB player Jermaine Curtis, and I help players hit for more power and consistency, ensuring that they never fall behind, but more importantly, stand out, get college scholarships and pro offers. Now, there are 5 common problems most baseball players struggle with when they're trying to hit their first or their next home run. And these problems are: 1, overswinging; 2, striking out; 3, sacrificing consistency; 4, being undersized; and the 5th one, lack of confidence and belief. Now, if you solve the top 3 problems, then you're gonna solve the 4th and 5th problems. And what I'm gonna share with you today will solve the top 3 problems, which will in turn solve the 4th and 5th problem. But unfortunately, what most coaches and hitting gurus today teach calls 4 of the 5 problems. So aspiring players listen to the advice of the hitting gurus and coaches, and it leads to swinging underneath baseballs, popping balls up, flying out, hitting a lot of ground balls, or even worse, striking out. It gets so bad, they overswing to the point where their mechanics break down, leading to missing the ball entirely or even rolling over balls. And this lack of consistency ultimately kills their confidence, pushing them down the lineup or even onto the bench. And if they are undersized, they get these results and they start believing that they can't drive the ball, so they end up focusing on small ball, just making contact, and they never develop to what they ultimately can become. So what should we do? Well, when it comes to hitting a baseball, what we're essentially doing is creating energy that starts from the ground up and releases into the baseball. So the more energy we can create throughout our body to release into the baseball, the harder and farther the baseball will go. In other words, energy is considered power. It's another way of saying power. And the sad part is that most baseball players today, especially youth baseball players, only use a fraction of their power. They are like this pitcher. They are like the glass on the left, only using about 1/3 of their power. What we want to do is be like the other glass, using all our power. So how do we use all of our power to hit our first or next home run? Well, we use the power hitting formula. The power hitting formula is exit velocity weighted times line drive plus fly balls times middle plus pull side. This formula includes hitting doubles and hitting home runs. So if you want to increase your power, increase your slugging by hitting more doubles, more triples, or even home runs, you definitely want to use this power hitting formula because it's exactly what you're looking for. And just to give you an example, we're gonna use Steven Kwan and we're gonna put him through the power hitting formula right now. Last season, he was a contact hitter, and this year he's still a contact hitter, but he has had a power surge. His slugging percentage has increased significantly, the most in MLB from year to year. According to MLB, Kwan focused on bat speed and exit velocity, which is part of the power hitting formula, so we can check that off. He also reduced his ground ball rate from 47% to 36%, which is the 4th largest drop in the majors, which is another check. He also increased his rate of pulling the ball in the air. See, last year when he hit the ball in the air, he pulled it 18% of the time. This year, he's doubled that, doing so 36% of the time. Put another way, he's hit nearly as many pulled air balls this year, 39, as he did the entirety of last year, 50. This means another check in the power hitting formula. On top of that, since he's hitting the ball harder, his batting average has increased, and this has led him to be an all-star. And the best part is that he's not striking out more. He's not sacrificing consistency for power. He's not over swinging, and he's doing this as a small, undersized player. And you can too. Now, before we get started on executing the formula, we need a measurable goal. See, wanting to hit your first home run or your next home run is great, but without a measurable goal is just a wish. So here's a cheat sheet that tells you our measurable goal. Or in other words, how hard you need to hit the baseball to achieve your first or your next home run based on your age. We also call this your exit velocity. Now, if you don't know what exit velocity is, it's the speed in which the ball comes off the bat. When you are watching an MLB game, it's the number that pops up on the screen when they hammer a ball 400 feet. By the way, I've created the ultimate home run playbook for you, and you can download it for free below. Inside the ultimate home run playbook, you'll get the how hard you should be hitting the ball cheat sheet at your age. You'll get the home run playbook guide. You'll get the home run checklist. You'll get the power pitch framework. You'll get the swing framework. You'll get the lower half framework. Plus, you'll join my newsletter with nearly 5,000 members called the Prospect Blueprint, where I share my secrets to help you take your game to the next level. So after this video, go down and take advantage of the ultimate home run playbook so you can hit your first or next home run. So now back to the video. So now using the cheat sheet, let's take for an example an 11-year-old. As you can see, he needs to hit the baseball at 70 miles per hour to ensure he hits it hard enough to hit a home run. So now that we have our measurable goal, we need to know currently where we are. Now, the best way to do this is by using a pocket radar. So what we're gonna do is we're going to use a pocket radar off of a tee, and we're gonna take about 10 to 20 swings, and we're going to get the average from there. And that'll tell us our current exit velocity or how hard we should be hitting the baseball. By the way, you can get a 10% discount on a pocket radar when you download the ultimate home run playbook below, and you'll get other discounts as well. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Get yourself a discount on a pocket radar, because this is very valuable if you're trying to hit extra base hits. Now, after getting our number, our current exit velocity number, we know where we are right now and where we're trying to go. So now, how do we execute the power formula so we're able to start driving baseballs and hit our first or our next home run? So what we're gonna do is the 100X power process. It's a program that'll take my students through so that they're able to hit their first or next home run. And I do this both online and I do this in person when you work with me in Nashville, Tennessee. If you guys are out here, definitely reach out to me. And I'm going to take you through it so you can reach those numbers so you can hit your first or your next home run. Now, as you can see, exit velocity is the first part of the formula. And in order to increase exit velocity, I like to take my students through 3 major key parts, okay? And the first one is strengthening the core. And all the things I'm going to share with you, I actually did as a pro player at the highest level. This isn't any theory, this stuff that I actually did as a player. So the first part of it is core strength. The core connects the upper body and lower body. So the stronger we can get the core, the better we're able to rotate, the more we're able to release energy into the baseball. It's just so important as a hitter. To improve your core strength, I like to do things like planks. I like to do medicine ball slams, medicine ball rotations. I have all my players do those things. Now, the second key is lower half strength. For me, the lower half is like the engine. It starts everything up. It's the thing that generates the energy. It generates the power. So we want to strengthen our lower half, okay? And we want that to basically pull the bat through the zone. Instead of us trying to force it, we're using the big muscles to, swing the bat, and that's going to allow us to hit the ball harder and farther. Now, I like to take my hitters through a few different things. I like to do squats. I like to do lunges. I like to do kettlebells, as you see right now, one of the players on the screen doing. He's in my online program. And these are the things that I believe will help a hitter drive the baseball. Now, the third key that I like to improve upon is the upper body. And I really like to focus on the forearms and the back. I had a coach that always said a strong back equals attack. So we would all do chin-ups, pull-ups all the time in pro baseball. And I use that to help my players as well. So I do things, like I said, chin-ups, pull-ups. We do push-ups as well. I do, when you're doing push-ups, instead of doing a regular, doing on your fingertips, so you're strengthening the forearms, the hands, the fingers, everything that you need when you're swinging the bat. So those are the 3 keys right there that we focus on to start to develop our power and develop more energy that we're going to create and release into the baseball. So the next thing after we've strengthened our body, we want to now go into hitting mechanics, because now we need to use that strength so that we're able to drive the baseball. Now, the first place to start is the lower half, and I use a framework called the coils framework, which was partly inspired by Brian Dozier. If you don't know who Brian Dozier is, he was a teammate of mine with the Minnesota Twins, and he was an undersized player, and he hit 40 home runs and 40 doubles. And when I went over to the team, I got put into the power program, and he was one of the players there. And he was hitting the ball just as hard and as far as the biggest players. And I pulled him to the side and I said, hey man, what is it that you're doing that's allowing you to drive the baseball? And he said that he was using his lower half. So there's a good segment on him, which I'll put below, that MLB Network did, that I believe you should watch. But I took what he taught me and I've turned it into my own, which is this framework called the coils framework. So the first step in the framework is the C, and what we're going to do is coil and load. So we're going to load into this back leg, because the lower half is like the engine. It starts, it gets everything going. So we're going to load into this back leg and hit, okay? And when you do this correctly, you'll feel your glute, you'll feel your quads. And so once you do that, what we're also going to do is we're going to think about turning this knee inward towards the back knee. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us a coil. Another way of explaining it is from my mentor, Hall of Famer Dusty Baker. He would say, show your back pocket towards the pitcher. So when you show your back hip pocket or your back pocket towards the pitcher, what that's going to do now is give you a little coil. It's going to sink you into that back leg, and it's going to sink you into that back hip, and it puts you into a really good posture so that you're able to get a repeatable swing off. So that is step number 1. Now the next step is the O, and it's an orchestrated step. What that is that we're going to think about keeping our nose and chin over our back leg, which will in turn keep our chest over our back leg and allow us to ride that back leg. Okay, and that's what we want to do, and that will keep us soft onto our front foot once we land it, right? So that's the second step, is riding that back leg, keeping that chest over the back leg, and keeping the nose and the chin over that back leg. Now the third step is initiate landing position. So now we're going to land, and we're solely focusing on the lower half. That's why this is initiate landing position. So we're going to land, and what we're going to do is we're going to land at 45 degrees with our front foot. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 60% of our weight on our back side and 40% on our front side. Now, I know when you're hitting, you're not going to be measuring what you're doing in the batter's box, but just to give you an understanding in the visual, we want to keep 60% of weight here and 40% here, and your chest should be over that back leg still. And that will put you in a good position to, when we release the barrel, that we're going to get a very good consistent swing off. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch and fire our hips. So once we're in this position, now we're going to fire this back hip into the baseball, right? But one of the things I want to say is that we don't want to spin off the baseball. So in order to not spin, what we want to do is we want to pinch the ground with our big toe. And what that's going to do is get this action right here, where our knee starts to come inward towards the ground, and then that'll keep us inside the baseball, as opposed to if you just squish the bug, you just come around the ball, right? So we want to pinch the ground, as you can see here, and you can see how this movement is different than just turning. But then we're going to fire that back hip into the baseball, and that's what's going to allow us to really get that energy that we're creating into the baseball. Now the last step in the framework is S, and we're going to stabilize the hips and create a firm front side. So now that we are turning, we're firing this back hip into the baseball. We are going to use our front foot heel as an anchor. It's going to stop our hips and allow us now to take all that energy through our body so that we can release it into the baseball. This is a huge problem with youth baseball players. I see it. They stride and then they land on the ball of their feet and they stay on the ball of their feet. And this keeps your hips going forward, and that's when players lunge. So what we want to do is we want to use our heel as the anchor. And you can see right here, everything stops. And now I'm able to really drive through the baseball. I'm really able to use that energy that we created to release into the baseball. And that's how you're going to be able to drive the baseball. That's how those exit velocity numbers are going to shoot up. And that's how you use your lower half correctly to drive those gaps and hit your first or your next home run. Now, since we've been using Steven Kwan, let's look at his lower half and use him as an example. So if we look at his lower half, you'll see how he loads and coils into his back leg and hip. You'll also see how he controls the step by riding his back leg, keeping his chest over his back leg. You'll also see how he initiates the landing position, landing softly on his front foot with 60% of his weight on his back leg and 40% on his front leg. And then you'll see how he launches and fires his hips. You'll also see him pinching the ground with his big toe. This keeps him inside the baseball. And lastly, you'll see how his front foot heel turns into an anchor to stabilize his hips and create a firm front side, preventing him from lunging and creating a thrust-like motion that allows him to transfer all of the energy he created through his lower half into the baseball. So as you have seen, Steven Kwan is also doing the coils framework, and this is allowing him to drive the baseball, and it'll allow you to drive it as well, hitting your first home run or your next. So now that we're using the lower half to drive the baseball, what we're now going to talk about is the actual swing. Now, the swing framework I use is partly inspired by Barry Bonds. I first met him when I was at UCLA in 2007. It was like his last year that he was playing, and he started giving me tips and drills, and it helped me so much as a hitter. Now, I've kind of made it my own, and I turned what he taught me into a framework. And the framework is called Catch, which is one of his themes, right? So the first part of the framework, or the first step, is charging up. In other words, loading. Now, when I would talk to my students about loading, they would push their hands back, and a lot of them just don't know what to do. So what I tell them is that think about your arms being wings. And what we want to do is we want to just flap that back wing. So now we're focusing on the elbows as opposed to focusing on the hands. And what that's going to do is, if you do it correctly, it'll make this knob smile. And that's all we want. We want to get into this position right here where our back arm is in a punching position. You'll be able to feel your scap, and the knob will be pointing to the catcher, and the barrel will be above our head at 45 degrees. That's what we want. We want to get into that position, okay? So that is step number one, is charging up, and we do that by wing flapping, right? If we focus on the elbows instead of the hands, we'll make that knob smile, as you see right here. The second step is we want to now align the knob, and the way I describe it is like the knob is getting pulled inside your body and around this shoulder, okay? And if we had a line right here, you will see how the knob starts to ride on a line towards the pitcher. So that's the next step we're going to do, is aligning the knob. And what that's going to do is that's going to get us inside of our body and also inside the baseball. You can't hit the baseball, you can't get inside the baseball if you're not inside your body. A lot of kids, their initial move is here and they're already around their body as opposed to inside their body. And when I say inside the body, it's inside the shoulders without the shoulders opening up. So we're pulling our hands in, we're pulling that knob around the shoulder, and if you do it correctly, the barrel will make a Nike swoosh type visual. So here, you can see how it starts to create a little Nike swoosh. Okay, that right there is step 2. Now, step 3 is we want to train the top hand to go to the baseball. Okay, and if you do it correctly, your hands will be above the barrel as well as the baseball, and you'll be in a palm up, palm down. And the swing, and when you catch it, it should be on a slightly upwards trajectory. The ball is coming down and you want to catch it on the same plane. All right, so that right there is step 3. Step 4 is that we want to continue through it. So as we catch it, we want to continue through. And it's really just this movement right here. Okay, we're still going through it. And then the last step is we want to finish high, a high finish. So after we continue through, we want a high finish. Now, where you're at right now, you should be able, if I was wearing batting gloves right here, you should still be able to see the batting glove logo until the bat passes my chest. Too many kids are like the Nike sign, as you see right here, and they get to the baseball and they immediately finish their swing. But we want a high finish, and the best way to explain that is that you want to think about your top hand, your right hand, if you're a right-handed hitter. If you're a left-handed hitter, it would be your left hand. Think about giving yourself a pat on the back over your shoulder, and that'll keep your path on that slightly upward trajectory that we've been on, continuing through it, and now over our shoulder. I'll keep our path into the inside of the baseball, but more so in the middle of the field. So I'll show you here, and then as I continue through it, and now I'm getting myself a pat on the back underneath this shoulder. All right, so right there, that is the catch formula. It'll allow you to hit more line drives, less ground balls, more hard hit fly balls, and that's going to help you to hit your first or your next home run. And to give you an example of that, we're going to put Steven Kwan through the catch framework. In step 1, you'll see his barrel upright, and as he loads/coils and takes his orchestrated step, you'll see him wing flap to a proper launch position. And step 2, you'll see him pull the knob inside of his body around his back shoulder, creating a Nike-like swoosh. Step 3, you'll see his top hand catch the baseball on a slightly upward trajectory with his hands above the barrel and ball. In step 4, you'll see him continue through the baseball instead of finishing his swing prematurely. And lastly, you'll see his hands roll over above his chest, and he will finish with the pat on the back over the shoulder. Now, the next step in the framework that I've been taking you through to hit your first or your next home run is knowing what pitches we can actually drive to hit our first or our next home run. I call this our power pitch, our hot zones, our cold zones. We need to know that. The more information we know about ourselves, the better. Every player you see at the highest level, they know what pitches they can't hit. They know what pitches that they can hit. And most of the time, they're looking for a pitch in a specific location, and that's why they're driving it for extra base hits. That's why they're hitting home runs. That's why they're hitting doubles. They're looking for the pitches. So we need to know what pitches to look for so we can increase our probability of making more harder contact and driving it out of the ballpark. Now, if you're a youth baseball player, what I recommend is a simple approach. A simple plan for you is look over the middle of the plate and hit anything close. This plan works. So if you're a youth baseball player or a player, you just don't know your power pitch or your hot zones or cold zones, look over the middle of the plate and hit anything close. And what I want you to do is think of creating an MLB The Zone box. And when you're hitting off a tee, imagine that box there. When you're hitting front toss, imagine that box being there. When you're hitting BP, visually imagine that box be there, and anything that comes in that box, you take a hack at it. Because the thing is that when you are looking for a pitch, you actually will hit it hard. The problem is sometimes we see pitches, but we're not looking for it, and we take a swing, and that's how we get ourselves out. So this will start to basically allow you to not throw away at bats. You're going to swing at the pitches that you're looking for, and this is a simple plan that you can use. Look middle and hit anything close. If it's out here, it's not middle, you're not going to swing. If it's here, you're not going to swing. Very simple plan that works for any given age group. Now, if you want to take your game to that next level, what I recommend is learning your power zones, the pitches that you can and can't hit. Because as you get older, what's going to happen is that you're going to face pitchers who have strengths and they have plans against you, and they're going to try to expose your weaknesses. And if you don't know your weaknesses, you're going to fall into their traps. So what I recommend is the 4-core quadrant. You can do this anywhere, and it's going to help you a ton. Okay, so the first part of the 4-core quadrant is S. We're going to study. And what we're going to do is when we're taking balls off the tee, we're hitting balls from front toss or even BP, we're going to document and track the balls that we are able to hit hard to center field and our pull side gap. That right there is the M and P in the formula, and we're going to focus on those two spots, middle of the field and pull side gap. We don't really want to go pull side, because then we'll start rolling over pitches. But if we're going to hit it pull side, we want to drive it in the gap, so we're staying still in the middle of the field. We practice in the middle, and if you catch it out front, that's your home run to your pull side, and that's going to be the one that you drive over the fence. So that's the first part, is studying those pitches that give us the result we want. Now from there, what we want to do is we want to start strategizing. We're going to figure out maybe we like pitches lower better. So now we're going to start focusing on that pitch. We're going to look for that pitch when the count is 2-0, when the count is 3-1, when the count is 0-0. We're going to start looking for that pitch. To give you an example, I started documenting everything that I was doing at the plate, and I learned this from Carlos Delgado. He tracked all his pitches, and so I started tracking all my pitches, where they were throwing it, and I realized that I actually like pitches at the top of the zone. And so when the count was 0-0, this was what I was looking for. And when the count was 2-0, I was looking for this pitch. When it was 3-1, I was looking for this pitch. This pitch allowed me to drive the ball for extra base hits. So I put all my eggs in that basket. I eliminated other pitches, and I focused on that pitch at the top of the zone when it was a count that I was looking to do damage. So that's the second part of it, is strategizing. The next thing is strike. We know we've studied the pitches that are giving us the result of driving the ball center and pull side. We've strategized, okay, now I'm looking for this pitch, and now it's about execution. We want to strike those pitches. We're going to give our best swing on that pitch, and we're going to try to do damage, right? And then the last one is we're going to scuffle. Now, there are going to be times where you're going to get your pitch, and you just might miss it. It's baseball. It's going to happen. So what we want to do then is just scuffle. We want to fight. We don't give in. Good hitters never give in at the plate. So that is the 4-core quadrant. And if we look at Steven Kwan, you'll see that Steven Kwan has a hot and cold zone. You can see his hot zones are middle away, and you can see where his cold zones are. And these cold zones are what he's done very well. He doesn't swing at those pitches, which forces the pitcher to throw more into the zone that allows him to get the result he wants. And that right there is good hitting, and that's the reason why he's been able to pull more baseballs. He's been able to drive more baseballs. He's been able to still hit with a high average, is because he's doing all the things I've shared with you today. Now, if you do the 100x power process, you'll solve all 5 problems. You'll be more confident. You won't need to overswing. You won't sacrifice consistency for power. You will not strike out. You'll be able to drive the baseball to hit your first or next home run regardless of your size and strength, just like Stephen Kwan. So to give you an example of this, here's Lewis and his son. He used the 100x power process and just hit his first home run.
Go, 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 go. Yeah, baby. Yeah, home run, baby. A home run, baby. A home run, family.
Look how happy his dad is. And notice the comment he made about my program. Now, here's a clip of Bernie's son, Blake. He went through the 100x power process and hit his first home run in less than 6 weeks. Here's what his mom had to say. Bernie said, "My son is a sophomore in high school, and within 1 week of working with Jermaine, started hitting the line drives. He went from batting 110 to 360 and finishing the season with the home run over the fence. First home run ever. He also got moved up to varsity for the state playoffs. No words can express the amount of confidence Jermaine has given my son. We have tried other programs and nothing worked. This is worth every penny and more." Now here's Rob. Rob flew out from Houston to go through the 100x power process, and we increased his batted ball exit speed numbers 10 miles per hour, and this boosted his power so much he ended up getting a pro contract. Now, if you want to hit your first or your next home run in the fastest time possible, without wasting your time watching countless YouTube videos, what I recommend is go down below and click the link and schedule a Zoom call with me. And what I'm going to do is break down your swing and tell you exactly what you need to do to take your game to that next level so you can hit your first or your next home run. The examples that I used in this video are from players who were in the same spot as you and they took advantage of this opportunity. Now, I'm not going to do this forever, so if you're interested, go ahead and take advantage of it right now. You can speak to me or you can speak to my team, and we're going to really help you take your game to that next level. With that being said, if you're younger than 18, what I recommend is first talking to your parents and having them schedule the Zoom call. I'm not going to talk to anyone younger than 18. So if you're younger than 18, your parent has to be there to make sure that everybody is okay and your parents consent to this. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you hit your first or your next home run and take advantage of all the things that in this video is definitely going to help you.